Near is stating is all projects, all layer ones can come and use this technology in order for them to build decentralized front ends. So the backend doesn't matter if it's a Solidity smart contract, if it's a Rust smart contract, if it's a WebAssembly.
Don't worry, we are friends.
And welcome back, Friends Validator community. Welcome back to the Friends Validator YouTube channel. I'm yours, Yuri Maibum, and this YouTube channel is a YouTube channel you should subscribe to if you want to stay on top of everything what has to do with proof of stake, staking, and how to use your capital in crypto capital efficient. And today I'm sitting here with Claudio from Metapool. And what we do today is a Near ecosystem deep dive. We will elaborate on what's going on in the Near ecosystem. Also, we will do like a small outlook, for example, also what happened with the foundation grant, which was worth $800 million in mid-2021, how Near is handling the situation that the Solana ecosystem is suffering a lot and Rust developers are now leaving this ecosystem. So there's a lot to catch up on. And yeah, with that being said, Claudio, welcome to the show once again.
Hey, Judy, thank you very much for having me. Really, really excited to be here. It's been a couple of months and lots of things to be updating for sure. So yeah, let's get it rolling.
Yeah, 100%. And the pleasure is mine, and let's get straight into it. So Near is one of the most established layer ones still in the crypto industry, I would say. I mean, Near's initial vision was also to provide a more scalable environment for users, but also for developers to build applications on top of it. And yeah, also that the users can use these applications without paying insane amount of gas fees. So there's always this trade-off when you hear there's scalability versus decentralization and security. So before we get very deep into the Near ecosystem, could you like give us like a small, super brief overview, like how many validators are there in on the Near blockchain right now? What's going on with sharding? So just like the initial concept of Near to get like an overview.
Yes, so Near has been around for it's going this year is going to be the 3rd-year anniversary in October. It's really funny because last year during DevCon, it happened in Bogota, and we managed to do a Near space, and it was in the anniversary for their Genesis. So anyhow, it's going to be 3 years up and running. We've been really excited from day one because of what Near offers developers, which is a chance to build protocols that are running on top of DAOs. The wallet itself, it's a smart contract, so there's a lot of composability there. So, but there's also some clear challenges, right? And it's overall challenges that we're, as a community, getting together to start to solve them and understand what is the next bounce of the ball. For now, there are around 205 validator nodes, validator and chunk producer nodes on the Near protocol network. It's running on 2 shards right now, main shard and also Nightshade. So the sharding technology has been deployed, and we're slowly but surely working toward decentralizing the protocol as much as we can, as the market allows, right? Because at the end of the day, node operators need to have a business model behind it, and so and this is by earning protocol fees, right? And when you start onboarding more nodes into the network, of course, the APY goes, the staking rewards goes down, and so that makes it a little bit of a challenge for new node operators and chunk producer nodes to come. But anyhow, right now it's 205. At Metapool, we're delegating to around 89 validator nodes, and one of these validator nodes, it's also the Aurora node, which is a node that is sustaining the Aurora EVM compatible network. And actually, the Aurora EVM compatible network is running on a shard as well. And so that this is where we are right now. Definitely, it's been an uphill battle since December last year. We've seen a couple of challenges on all ecosystems, on all fronts, right? Developers moving to other L1s, projects dialing it down, right? Because this sustainability right now, as you know, Judy, that's a big challenge everyone has around building around crypto. And we are also no strangers to that challenge, right? We've been pretty lucky that have some early backers supporting us, some early traction. But right now we're figuring out like what's the next step, right? And regulation with all the FUD from the SEC and the Fed and over in the US, that's also affecting us as well, right? But anyhow, we're alive and kicking, we're alive and building, and there's still a lot of potential, right? For in emerging markets, it's a hotbed of crypto adoption, right? I've seen this when I went on in February to Argentina, and so definitely really exciting about what we're going to be building and supporting over in emerging markets. And I think Near is the right protocol. The fees are low, transactions are fast, and we still need to kick the tires on scalability in the sense of having like really big mass adoption. We've seen it with Sweat, the Sweat wallet or Sweat coin adoption, around more than 300,000 active users on it. So the network can hold, right? But then mass adoption means billions of users. So and that's still TBD for any L1.
Yeah, totally agree on this, and I think there's a lot to unwrap here. So first of all, Near is, so to speak, a mass adoption chain to, yeah, I mean, they're like, we see right now this trend, especially in the Cosmos ecosystem, of sector-specific blockchains that serve for one specific kind of applications only, for example, injective or say network. But yeah, Near really like tackles the big bull here, so to speak. Also with the human readable addresses, yeah, and have like a general purpose layer one. And also what I also want to unwrap here, just for people who are new to sharding. So the idea of sharding is to not have basically one huge blockchain, but basically split it into many shards so that these transactions can be verified simultaneously. And yeah, it is theoretically possible to not only have two shards in here, but multiple. So this is very cool. But yeah, you mentioned some challenges, and I think this is the right moment to basically shift this conversation here a little bit, because I remember I attended NearCon in 2021 in September, and everything looked like so beautiful. Everyone was so excited about everything. Bull market was going on, and then Near just announced the largest grant foundation, the largest foundation grant in Web3 ever. We talk about $800 million to be precise, that we're planning to invest in the ecosystem, into new applications, into new developers, and so on and so forth. So my question now is very straightforward. How was this money being used so far? Were there any lessons learned? And yeah, are people happy with how the grant involved?
Yeah, so this is first and foremost, right? I'm talking representing myself, not even Metapool or anyone else, right? But the ecosystem is pretty tight, right? In the sense that it's pretty open in the sense that we understand how funds were allocated. And I'm not gonna lie, it was, there were a lot of there was an influx, of course, because announcing that sort of money to be allocated to grow the ecosystem, of course, brings in a lot of builders, but also a lot of scammers and so it brings good actors and bad actors, right? And of course, there's the challenges of building then the solutions, right? And so it has been a mixture of hits and misses and some and bad actors are also participating, right? One of the big challenges that we've had as an ecosystem is growing regionally, right? Part of this funding got allocated to what they were calling regional hubs. Africa, then it was India, Korea, Vietnam, China. There was going to be an allocation for LATAM as well. That got delayed. Did not move forward. And so there was this mixture of a lot of things on the table, and not having laser focus on different verticals or different narratives, right? So one narrative there that I think one of the big hits was proximity labs. So proximity got an allocation of around 300 million, I think it was, out of that. And so they were focused on increasing DeFi adoption on Near. And Metapool benefited from that, right? We got some delegation from proximity to stake with us in order for them to have exposure to SD Near and then allocate that to other projects. And they also onboarded, for example, order books, Tonic, Orderly, Spend Finance as well. So they did their part. Also, they were the ones there are the ones that are bringing in Circle for native USDC and also native USDT. So that's been like, and it takes time. Rome didn't got built on a day, right? But then like FTX imploded as well, right? And FTX was also Alameda Research was a really big investor in a couple of rounds from projects on the Near ecosystem, and also on Near itself, right? And so then that created a lot of FUD as well, right? They were coming in as a market maker as well, and so a lot of the funds that they allocated to some projects got shifted, right? And so that really rocked the boat. Not in the sense that put the protocol on a red alert. It's just capital flowing out of the ecosystem, as easy as that. Now they've shifted into more of a supporting what's called, and they announced it at Consensus. It's called Near Horizon, which is a one-stop shop for everything, how you can grow and build on top of Near protocol. And that's been built on the technology they're calling blockchain operating system, or BOS. And so that has been, those have been like the three fundamental changes that's been happening, right? Like and DeFi right now, yes, it is stagnant. Everyone's struggling, but this is happening on all fronts, right? Luckily, there hasn't been any downtime on the network, so everything has been flowing steadily. For example, we have been supporting custodial services such as Fireblocks, Finoa, Credo, and so there's still a lot of we're continue building, right? Just mass adoption still not there, and so we need to understand what is the next bounce of the ball. And for us is how can, as an ecosystem, collaborate between each other, right? For example, right now we're collaborating with Sweatcoin, right? We're going to allow more people to get exposure to liquid staking. There's a play and earn dynamic there, and so we're going to be onboarding, teaching people why liquid staking is important. And then we're also partnering with other projects, because we gotta bundle up together in order to survive. That's the reality. And so now there's been, for example, some how can I say, challenges as well. Like all this, the creator economy, NFTs has been a challenge in the Near ecosystem. A bunch of projects left. That's the reality for it. The reason for this is that the support or allocation of funds went through a dry season. I think it was around November all the way to March, and so there were no deployment of capital at all, right? And so that put in a lot of question marks on the ecosystem. You can see it on the forums, right?
Okay.
Like people were asking, like, "Hey, what happened?" The creatives DAO, they said, "Hey, like we have this bunch of creators here. We have projects, but then there's no funding for them, right? It's like chicken and egg problem. It's a marketplace problem." And so,
but yeah, just to understand
go
this
ahead.
here, just to understand this here. So how was this? I mean, like you said, dry season, but I mean, 1 year before, I mean, what you just described is 2022, and just 1 year before there were like $800 million on the sideline. So how can you enter a dry season when having $800 million on the sideline? And how can we imagine this? Was there like a bank account and there were like $800 million, or was this like locked, or was, I don't know, SBF in person in charge of this? So where were these $800 million, and why did the dry season came?
So no, there are funds that the Near Foundation has allocated, right? There were a lot of question marks around that, like the transparency for it. And so the community kind of rallied up and say, okay, we need a transparency report. They did a transparency report, right? The Near Foundation has been communicating as much as they are allowed to disclose, because there's a lot of legal ribbons there, right? But they did a couple of transparency reports, and then out of that, dry season, in the sense of like not understanding where the market was going, and like a little bit of just being very cautious on capital deployment, because their model was around equity on some parts, and then other was a grant, and so there was a mixture there, and they kind of like got a sense of, hey, we're digging the hole much deeper, right? Because a foundation cannot have, or what they discover is that having allocation or equity allocation on projects was not going to way to go. They were not going to be able to scale that, and so that's why they took two steps back, right? Where now they're more of a partnering with an accelerator through Near Horizon. So the legal aspect, the partner is the one running with that, right? And the partner gets all the equity, and they do like kill two birds with one stone. But more importantly, what came out of that, like in November, that they announced it in NearCon, was Near Digital Collective. That's when the dry season started, because that's the shift from supporting the ecosystem through the foundation through Near Digital Collective, which is more a community-owned project. It has stewards. There's a couple of for example, Rune from Lyric Ventures is one of the custodials. There's Ricky from Paras, who's one of the custodials, and a bunch of what we can call OGs from the Near ecosystem, right? And they're the ones that are going to be guarding the funds. Right now, the allocation was around, kind of like 3 million Near has been allocated. 3 or 4 million Near has been allocated to Near Digital Collective in order for them to kickstart all the legal aspect. The of course, people are not going to work for free, right? Like running this is expensive, and two, it's a job. And so I think Henry Tafola is doing a good job in the sense of leading this, right? Understand, and what was one of the problems as well through the past program, that even though KYC was done on a couple of grants, there were grants that were given to pseudonymous or anonymous folks as well. And so and there were small grants, not big, $100,000 checks. But then again, like deploying capital, or there were, for example, bounties, right? 50, 100, 200 Near and whatnot being allocated through a grant to pseudonymous or anonymous folks. That's a problem. That's the reality for it. It's a problem. I know it goes a little bit against the ethos of Web3 or crypto, but through a foundation, it's a problem. And so now Near Digital Collective is you have to dox yourself. If you want to get allocation, if you want to get a grant, be it 20 Near, maybe 1,000 Near, or 100,000 Near, I don't know, you will have to do KYC AML, yes or yes. It's the reality for it, right? That's the challenge, Judy.
Yeah, I think it's also, this is also what Web3 is like sometimes a little bit naive about. It's like this, everything is decentralized and everyone has a goodwill, everyone want to push for the right thing. But I mean, Web3 is also confronted by lots of scammers. So I think there are like some lessons, definitely a lot of lessons learned here. But yeah, like speaking of like projects now, so I also remember like really 2021 was like the super rosy times for the Near ecosystem. The grant got announced, but also Aurora. You mentioned Aurora a couple of times. It's basically the EVM for the Near ecosystem, so that all of the cool Ethereum dApps could also be deployed on top of Near, such as Aave. Aave was one of the first dApps to announce to launch on Near via Aurora. So Yeah, you mentioned that there were like some problems with like projects coming too near. So yeah, could you like maybe draw a picture here like about the Aurora ecosystem here? So how many projects got eventually deployed on Aurora? How many of these are actually being used? Are there like some numbers in terms of TVL inflow? So concretely, this question is, how healthy is this ecosystem that like emerged on Aurora?
Yeah, I think I believe Aurora is a good chain for people that wanna. The goal for Aurora when they launched was that it was going to be the first stepping stone to interacting with the Ethereum ecosystem, right? They can bring in their smart contracts. They do not have to change anything. The fees were really low, right? They were kind of like zero. And then they have to shift it a little bit into saying, hey, no, you have to pay for the gas. It's like even though the gas is being paid on near, but yes, you have to pay for the gas. It is what it is. And but still fast, cheap, right? And so it still has the main fundamentals features that will allow anybody to deploy a Solidity smart contract on an EVM compatible chain and start working from day one, right? It had an initial influx of TVL from market makers, Alameda, right? And so there's a GSR. There were a couple of them, right, getting into it. But as we know, capital doesn't have any borders, right? And so these were some initial good projects, Tri Solaris, and we have Bastion, we have Origami. And so the lending and borrowing, Dexis came in. Order books as well, right? Perpetuals, and everything was going good, right? But then, yeah, like crypto winter hits, right? And everybody goes to as much as a safe haven as they can, right? And I think Aurora got hit there really hard. They shifted into allowing anybody to build their own private blockchains with Aurora Cloud. Then now and then they shifted they made a first shift to Aurora Plus, where they were thinking, okay, instead of people deploying their own smart contracts, they can deploy it as apps, right? And have this ecosystem of applications inside of it. And I think they've done a pretty good job at pivoting and trying and understanding what the narrative is for Aurora, right? For us is, well, we had a liquid staking token, and then we basically use the Rainbow Bridge in order to be it EVM compatible, our governance token as well. And so there were a bunch of good tools being brought on by the Aurora team, right? But then again, everyone's struggling for user retention, right? And project retention as well. And so for people that are, if you are catering to degens, right, on DeFi ecosystem, you have to have APY. There's no other way for you to come into a DeFi ecosystem. You're gonna come in because you see that there's an opportunity to get some upside, and I think that it's something that I think everyone is struggling. There's still movement, not a lot of growth, to be honest, right? And so are we leaving? I don't think so. It's just we're going to continue building. It is a robust platform. It hasn't had any security issues. They had attacks, right? And a couple of attacks on the Rainbow Bridge. But it has stood its ground. And that has, I think it's a testament on how solid their development team is and their delivery of products. And I think that shouldn't be undermined.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Rainbow Bridge is a good keyword here. So the Rainbow Bridge was also introduced in 2021, I believe. It was like the major bridge to connect two super powerful ecosystems, so the NEAR ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem. But what I hear from you is like in the beginning, when we were in a bull market, there was a lot of excitement going on, and people like were degens, so they brought their capital from these ecosystems and also like all of these funds like Like the SBF fund, for example, they all brought their Alameda research, they all brought like a lot of money in, great times. And then when the bear market hit, people were like leaving the boat back to the Ethereum ecosystem or completely out of crypto and Alameda research. We all know what happened. So is this how it basically happened, that the Rainbow Bridge was all of a sudden used in the other direction, like back to the safe harbor Ethereum?
Yes, I think a couple of things happened, right? There's still a little, yeah, there's still a good amount of TVL, like around 22 million. But yeah, most of it was through Alameda that was coming in, and also it's like Three Arrows Capital as well, right? Like for example, in 2021, like Three AC, right? Alameda were coming in, and they brought in a ton of liquidity with them, and so there were I don't know if there were lead investors or not in Aurora, but anyhow, so that was, and then when those proved to be scammers, right? Then yes, all that capital had to flow out, right? And then also dumping of tokens from the different projects that were participated by both of those firms, right? It is what it is, right? It's I think it was a unlucky situation, right? You were thinking, and this is in not only Aurora got hit. There was a ton of other projects that got hit because of trusting these two firms, right? And so anyhow, again, like I'm talking from my perspective, where that I was seeing it from the sidelines. Yes, participating in those ecosystems, but again, from the sidelines, because to be honest, we've always had activity on Aurora, right? That's what we continue building there. So it's just, you need to find your narrative, you need to find your niche, and just provide value, right? And for us is, can we build tokens or LP tokens that are a good LP token to be on farms, right? To provide liquidity, to be used in lending and borrowing. And for now, we've been pretty lucky that we have a solid project, right? But you need to continue building and experimenting, and there's going to be hits and misses. But I think the most important part here is that the technology is solid, and I think that's something that not a lot of projects can claim.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway here. So, I mean, I've never heard about like chain holes in the NEAR ecosystem. The Rainbow Bridge is one of the largest bridges that still is in the space. So we have seen the wormhole hack, we have seen the Nobad hack, but the Rainbow Bridge is one of the robust bridges so far. So yeah, that's totally true what you say here. But yeah, like what's like next for the NEAR ecosystem in that regard? Because I mean, we just drew like a very dramatic and very dark picture of the NEAR ecosystem. Liquidity left, 800 million weren't invested. That's smart. The big players left or like completely fell apart. So yeah, what's the positioning plan for NEAR right now? So how does NEAR want to position itself in this competitive layer one space? I mean, if you think about it, there is actually a lot of market share that just came to the open market, so to speak, because like also the competitor, so to speak, which is Solana, also suffered a lot from Alameda research, maybe even more than the NEAR ecosystem. And it's basically was the elephant in the room that stopped like Rust developers to go more into NEAR, because also Solana was there. So what's the strategy here in terms of the position of this competitive layer one space?
Yeah, so it's and this is just to set the tone, right? I think everybody was at that same. We're all in it together as an industry, right? It's like everybody was seeing a lot of challenges from either on the technology side, either on the liquidity side, or both, right? And so in this sense, NEAR was lucky. Yes, it's liquidity, but again, capital flows doesn't have any borders, and we need to be like kind of used to that and not panic, right? That's first and foremost. Now the next big jump that Near is proposing is what they're calling the blockchain operating system. One of the big things that Near wants to position itself is not compete in the L1 space. What they say is like, you know what, we have a technology that allows any project to scale fast, and I think that has been something that they have been pushing with the presence of the Sweat wallet, right? And with around like 200,000 daily active users on it, right? Like transacting daily on the Near blockchain, generating those Sweat coins, right? And so I think that's a testament on the scalability of the layer one. Now, how can they help bring in more users, right? And this is something that during a bear market, this is something you have to like double down on. And this is why we're still like full on committed to the Near ecosystem, because because this is something we believe ourselves, right? For example, we are super bullish on emerging markets. Like I went in February to Argentina, mass adoption, like you said, in Turkey, right? Like the taxi driver, right? Maybe in Turkey, they're more into how can they speculate on the price. In Argentina, it is how can they avoid being rug pulled by their government, right? Or for example, in Venezuela as well, right? Crypto is a safe haven for their capital. And so this is a shift that is going to happen worldwide. It is of course going to start in emerging markets because they're the ones that are getting hit more hard on that. And so with this is how can we make trustless, permissionless front ends, right? That no government can go and ban or censor. And so and they see this opportunity. And this is part of the ethos of why we're building in crypto, right? Permissionless, trustless, right? Decentralized. And these are, I think, the problem with 2021 shifting to a bearish market is that this started to become buzzwords where they have always been the ethos of why we came here, right? It's like I had no need to come and build in crypto. I already had a cushy job like at Atlassian and SaaS and whatnot. There's plenty of money there, right? And so what brought me here is like, can we build something where users are accruing more of all of the value? And this is, I think, is fundamental change that Near brought in. Instead of going into this L1 narrative that this L1 is better, this L1 is better. No, this is not an L2. What Near is stating is all projects, all layer ones can come and use this technology in order for them to build decentralized front ends. So the backend doesn't matter if it's a Solidity smart contract, if it's a Rust smart contract, if it's a WebAssembly smart contract, right? And so, and I think this composability brings in a lot of value. It is very, very early stage, right? If you go to near.org, you'll see there that implementation where you can basically grab any front end and you can fork it, and then you can use that code as well, right? And so it brings a lot of composability right now, very much to geeks, right? Not too much focused on mass adoption, but we're slowly but surely building it. And so what the fundamental change is that, yes, it's composability for decentralized front ends, and there are gateways. Gateways allows any user to come in and experience all of the Near ecosystem apps through a permissionless platform. And so if a gateway goes down maybe in India, then anybody can come in, and then they can go to a gateway maybe in Mexico, or a gateway maybe from Metapool. Maybe we can have our own gateway for DeFi, and we concentrate on like giving exposure to anyone interested in getting into DeFi on the Near ecosystem through our gateway, right? And so I think it is a challenge because we are moving from this L1 narrative to a blockchain operating system and supporting multiple blockchains, for example. And that's why we were also announced last year that Metapool is going to do Ethereum staking, right? And so we partner with SSV. We're launching this June because the idea is grab them from the two sides. yes, if you have a Near wallet, you can interact with Metapool. If you do not have a Near wallet, you can go to near.org and use Metapool through a gateway without the need for a Near wallet, which is how we're going to be doing mass adoption. And then you can decide if you want to do Ethereum staking or you can do Near staking. And so I think that's a fundamental change that is something we're really excited about. We've been pretty, we are kind of like infrastructure, right? We are a staking platform. We are, even though it is non-custodial, we are mindful that these are people's assets. And so before jumping all in, what we did first is that we right now have a component for Metaboat, which is how you can participate on our DAO. And so we're like slowly but surely building for the staking solution, just because we want to be mindful and just understand that this is still really early, and we don't want anybody's any issues, right? Because this is, yeah, as you're building something new, there's always some risk involved in using something that has been just recently launched, right? So for us, it's like we're allowing anybody to participate in our DAO through voting, and so that's what we deployed right now on Near Boss, and yeah, just slowly but surely trying to like experiment with permissionless front ends. And for us is what is going to be the narrative for us to onboard the next 1 billion users, right? And so it is still the path is there, but the destination is still not clear. But anyhow, this is where we are, Jerry.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I also have to break a lens here for the Turkish community. I mean, they literally have the same problem with a super inflationary currency, for example. So they have like they face pretty much the same problems as Venezuela. But yeah, like to wrap this a little bit up, like where years go next. I mean, like I get your point that that you don't want to compete in this race of which layer one is faster and what decentralized. I think this was a narrative that was pushed very hard in 2021, but we are over this edge right now already, I would say. So yeah, I mean, you're like continuing to build, but yeah, what I like to maybe like wrap this this topic up before going into validating and Metapool a little bit more. What were like now the lessons learned? So what is like exactly, like maybe like super brief, what is now the game plan like from all of these mistakes that that the ecosystem has done in the past? What is like the next game plan to really reach this 1 billion users?
Yes, for first and foremost, right? Like one, we have now a clear path for how Near Foundation is going to be supporting projects. That's going to be through Near Digital Collective. That's going to be through a transparent KYC process, right? Like proof of person, that's going to be implemented, right? It's going to be on chain, right? And so it's all this shift. We already have the tools. That's the great thing about it. We already have the tools in order to make transparency, to make it all on chain. And so that's one of the first kind of question marks that we're in from last year. Hey, what about all this capital? Yes, that capital will be deployed through Near Digital Collective to a transparent and on-chain process of proof you're a person. Then second, in terms of DeFi, right? So there's a bunch of players coming in from on the order book side. There's a 10 or 20 million fund from the Proximity that's going to be deployed to anybody building on top of the order books. So that's really good for anybody on the DeFi space. Now, for the creator economy, for the creatives and NFTs, the Creatives DAO has been funded, right, through the Near Digital Collective. So that's also some of the big question marks being put on the Near ecosystem. That's been answered, right? Now, for the next big thing, shift on the technology side, they're making the big bets on Near Boss. Now, the question is the education part around this narrative, right? and that's something that the whole ecosystem has been pretty open to talking to Ilya and the Pagoda team for them. More documentation, more webinars, and it's all a documentation and evangelization game. And so they're doing their own stuff there. We are doing our own part of it as well in evangelization, and trying to build a bridge between traditional finance and DeFi through supporting custodial services, which is some of the things that we've recently done. And we can talk about this a little bit. And then now, regarding onboarding new chunk producer nodes, right? So this is something very, very important that we've done through our DAO is, for example, we're allocating 15% of all the NEAR being delegated to Metapool. Chunk producer and validator node operators can decide how to get that allocation, how that allocation will be delegated through our DAO, through our Metaboat platform. So it is pretty simple. You go in, you will acquire our governance token. You go into our voting platform, you lock that token, you get voting power, and then you vote for your node on the list of all the node operators and chunk producer nodes on Metaboat, and then you get the allocation 3 epochs later, which is around 39 to 42 hours. You will get that allocation based on the voting power that you did for yourself. And so we're proving that DAOs can be built on top of NEAR. It's not something like we have use cases. And so I think the DAO narrative has a little bit kind of like shifted, and people are still, there are a lot of builders, to be honest, but it as a narrative has died down a little bit. But that's again why we build on NEAR. And so we're creating the use cases around it. It's all open source, so you can go ahead and check it out on our repo, on our GitHub repo. And so anyhow, so this is where right now, kind of like where we are right now as an ecosystem. A bunch of new players coming in. We have a lot of games like Play Amber as well, with around 30,000 or 35,000 active users as well. We have Sweat Wallet with 200,000. So there's a couple of games coming into the NEAR ecosystem. They're looking into a lot on the loyalty programs as well, right? There's going to be some cool announcements being done. Cacao games from the Korea ecosystem are being onboarded into the NEAR ecosystem, and so it's there's still a lot of things happening. And yeah, like this next 2 quarters are going to be really interesting. So anyhow, so that's the rundown.
Yeah, it's a very great overview here, and also what I would like to mention, what's also cool about Metapool is that it's like essentially the protocol that aims to decentralize NEAR more efficiently. So, for example, you could also be a validator in the active set already, and join the Meta validator pool, and then you also get NEAR distributed as long as you have like a spot in the active set. And this is how you like prevent that there's like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big validators running it all. So NEAR, what I hear from this is NEAR becomes more decentralized over time. The ecosystem is still thriving in another sense compared to 2021, but it's still alive, it's still intact, and everything moves forward. But yeah, to wrap this also a little bit up, I mean, I just mentioned Metapool and becoming a validator on NEAR by like having a safe set and the active set, and then like applying to become like part of the pool and then earn NEAR tokens to really stay in the active set. That's cool. But now you mentioned that before the interview that now it's possible to stake on Aurora directly. Can we like just talk about this briefly as well before wrapping it up?
Yes, so in during Ethereum Denver hackathon, one of the developers from our dev team participated in the hackathon, and he proposed basically a staking pool for Aurora. That they recently announced that staking was going to be allowed on the mainnet of Aurora, and so it is a little bit different because Aurora doesn't have any validator nodes. It's running fully on a shard, and they have their own validator node on the NEAR protocol network as well. And so what they do is they basically They grab Aurora, you stake it, and then how they're generating the APY is that this validator node that is validating Near on the Near protocol network. They are basically shifting that Near over to Aurora, and then they're pushing all those Aurora rewards over to their main EVM platform. And so it is a little bit different, because what it does, the protocol itself, is that it allocates an amount of rewards for 12 months, and then that gets distributed every epoch, right? Or every month. So it will vary from 14 to 20% based on the demand for the staking. Right now it sits around 20. The 15-day APY sits around 20.67%. The 7-day APY is 20.48%. So as you see, the APY is really, really big. But it is always shifting a little bit depending on the amount of time that you have your Aurora locked. There's some good fundamental changes that Alex Chemkov has proposed over in the Aurora forum. I would suggest everybody to go into the updated tokenomics of Aurora. But this is basically the too long don't read on staking. And so what we said is, like, instead of that Aurora being locked, can we make it more capital efficient? And so that's why we created a liquid staking token, so we can like kickstart more activity on the Aurora EVM compatible network. And so here we are. It's a whitelisted process. The reason for this is that the code has been audited right now by Halburn. We got the report 2 days ago. We're gonna review some of the comments that they forwarded to us. Luckily, there's no big issues, right? That we had to stop the contract or whatever. We are from a Rust background, so coming and shifting to Solidity, there's always some knowledge gaps there. And so definitely the Halburn team pointed it out. No big issues, just, hey, we need to clean up the code and make it more efficient. And so we're gonna do that, and hopefully next week we will open that up and on mainnet, so everybody can come in and stake their Aurora. Right now it's a whitelisted process, and so here we are. Just continue building, Jury. This is the way, right?
Yeah, I think that's like a very lovely sentence to wrap up this episode, and very significant what's going on in the Near ecosystem, right? So we have seen that also the Near ecosystem suffered a lot from the Alameda research downfall. A lot of liquidity has left the market, and a lot of this huge excitement from 2021 also vanished. But yeah, Near is also still an intact ecosystem going on, and keeps building, and also becomes more decentralized over time. So there are a lot of things to be excited about, I would say. So yeah, we will keep a close eye on the Near ecosystem. I mean, we are also a validator now in the Near ecosystem. We joined like really in the middle of when everything went up in fire, like during the SBF time. So, but yeah, here we are. But yeah, thanks a lot for joining, Claudio. This was a very, very insightful discussion. I think it gave us a good overview where Near is and where Near is going. So yeah, all the best of luck with Metapool, and I hope I see you soon.
Judy, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Stay safe.